Alyssa, you should be unmuted. And then Kaitlyn, I will unmute you too. So go ahead, Alyssa.
Can you hear me?
Yep, you're
good. I didn't know if it worked. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited for tonight. I'm super excited because when I started my journey with It Works, I was the only Canadian on our team. And Courtney tried really hard to train me with all the Canadian stuff as well as she could, but she's like, you should honestly follow Jackie Deering because she's Canadian and she's big over there. So I followed her, and the first thing I saw was Kaitlyn. And when I came across Kaitlyn's page, I was like, oh my god, I love this girl. I was fangirling. She doesn't even know I fangirl her, and I fangirl her hard. So I'm super excited for you guys to get to know her. So Kaitlyn, I want you to share your story and kind of what life was like before It Works and what it's like now.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, so I am Kaitlyn. I am 25. I joined this business 3 years ago. And honestly, I was one of the few people that signed up on the spot. You always hear people that take years to join. And for me, it was literally instant. Because what happened for us was I was doing government jobs. My fiance was still going to school. Well, he was only my boyfriend at the time, but he was still going to school. So he had no income. So we were just barely getting by as it was. We had just moved in together, literally weren't saying anything. Literally we were just getting by. And then all of a sudden we got pregnant. So that one little income turned into nothing besides a maternity leave paycheck, which literally we couldn't afford anything. All of a sudden, I couldn't put food on the table, couldn't pay the bills. His parents had to step in and start paying our rent. We couldn't afford a single thing. So when I saw my roller, Jackie, post that she had earned this huge, $30,000 bonus, I literally messaged her on the spot. I was like, what the heck? What are you doing? Because all I cared about was this mom was living my dream life at home with her kid, not struggling at all. And so I jumped in on the spot and just went running from day one. All I did was just I found the people that were doing what I wanted to do. Of course I had people negative, telling me I couldn't do it, stuff like that, right? But all I cared about was that people were succeeding. There are successful people, and I just took what they were doing and tweaked it to fit myself. And yeah, that's honestly the basics of what I've done since day one. And it just changed our life so quickly. Month 4, we went Emerald and earned, are you okay if I say money amounts on here? Okay, cool. So we earned a $5,000 bonus that month. And that was so on the spot, or unexpectedly on the spot is what I meant to say. Because what ended up happening is we went Emerald, and it was the day before conference started. And because I was brand new, I wasn't at conference yet. I couldn't afford to fly to Florida or any of that. So the next day when they had conference and they announced this $5,000 Emerald bonus, and they said that they would backdate it for the month before when I had just got Emerald, I literally fell on the ground crying, you guys, bawled. It was so bad. His parents were at our house too. I remember it was so embarrassing. I was in the fetal position on the floor. It's crazy. And so that just lit the biggest fire under my butt. And from that day forward, I said, you know what, this is so real. I will not stop. A month after that, we went Diamond and earned another bonus. And month 8 is when it changed everything for us. We had kind of saw this leading up to this huge bonus, right? Because it would have been double for me and Diamond for my boyfriend at the time. Fiance now. It makes it sound like we broke up. We didn't. We're just engaged now. But anyway, so we saw this coming. So we started looking at houses and being okay, maybe we can actually start looking at this. We can start taking these things more seriously. And so when we knew for sure this was happening, we were so close, we put in an offer. And so the same day that we went double and diamond, which Canadian added up to $43,000 in bonuses. It was a large amount. We moved into our house that same day, and that night while I was laying on the air mattress in the living room because it was an empty house, I sent in an email to my former boss and I was like, you know what, I love you guys, but I found something that is going to keep me at home and I will not be returning. So that literally was the most life-changing day for me, hitting those bonuses, a house. It's crazy, you guys. We went from a condo that was a 1-bedroom tiny little place that we couldn't even afford to a 5-bedroom house with we have a beautiful swimming pool in the backyard, and literally our garage is more square foot than our entire condo was. So it was a big jump. And since then it's just kept getting better and better. We now have 2 triple diamond accounts. We're top 150. Like it's crazy. It's done everything for us. And then I guess another cool part is that recently my fiance got offered this business opportunity in Australia for 3 months, which was so unreal. So we actually, because I didn't have to ask anybody for time off or lose pay for those 3 months, we packed up and we were able to take our 2-year-old to Australia for 3 months. And that honestly was the most life-changing thing for me ever, because there was a moment before we left, because what ended up happening was, like, they asked him to go and he only had 24 hours to respond. And if you say yes, like, you can't change your mind, right? It's like, you're in. So we had 24 hours to figure out, like, because if we were going, I was like, I'm not going unless we're touring first. Like, we are taking time to go as a family. So we had 24 hours to budget everything, do all the plans. And there was one moment that I was so stressed out. And I started crying. I was like, this is so stressful. Like, how do people do this? How do the families in your business, like, figure this out in 24 hours? And he looked at me and he was like, Kaitlyn, they don't. Like, no wives even go. Like, they were basically just asking me if I want to go. People have jobs. They don't go to Australia for 3 months. I just had this, like, moment. Like, it still brings me to tears when I think about it. So I'm like, oh my gosh, you are right. Like, this is literally why I do what I do. Like, I can't say no now. So once he said that, I was like, okay, we're going to be the first family to do this together. And so, yeah, the best thing ever is we have pictures all over our house now of our 2-year-old literally cuddling with kangaroos because of this business. So that's my story.
Oh my goodness. That's so amazing. Like, the freedom you got out of all that, so many different opportunities. I can't wait for the day when I fall on the floor crying because of a promotion. Like, I'm excited for that.
It'll happen, I promise you.
Okay. I remember watching a Zoom once and you mentioned that when you first started the business, you copied a lot of what Jackie did and you created it to make it your own, and that you felt like it kind of expanded who you were as a person. Can you, like, expand more on that? I feel like that's really important for us to understand, that when we're like, we shouldn't just copy and paste, that we should kind of make it our own and, like, create our own story to it.
Yes, absolutely. So that truly is, I think, like, the biggest tip you can give somebody that comes into this business is copy the right people, because you will always have so many people in your ear being like, you're not going to be successful, you're not going to make money, it's a scam. Like, every single person in this business has had that, right? Like, you're not unique if you get the negativity. And it's so important to remember that you can look at those people and you can listen to them, or you can look at literally the hundreds or thousands of people that are being so successful, making the money that you want to make, doing what it is you're wanting to do, and you can follow those people instead. So look at what they're doing, do what they're doing. Like, if they have a really good post, like, I'm telling you guys, I'm like the worst at just, like, taking other people's stuff, but, like, tweaking it and making it my own. Like, my whole camera roll is thousands of pictures of cute stories that I'll just add, like, my own pictures or, like, gifts to, like, make it my own. Or, like, in my phone, like, you can save posts. So, like, I have a whole bunch of collections of, like, different posts that I love, and I'll just literally, like, copy it, but then, like, change paragraphs and just make it my own. And, like, it's so simple, you guys. Just follow the people, find people that you vibe with, find, like, top earners, people who, like, you feel like you have a connection to, right? And you, like, use what they're using, but then make it your own, add your own pictures, like, add your stories to it. Like, on my messages, even any, like, reach out messages for host to post or for the opportunity, like, there's always, like, a small paragraph in it that it gives at least, like, a very short version of my story. Like, it is always telling people, like, who I am, why I'm doing this. And yeah, that's literally it. You can listen to the negativity, or you can follow the people that are doing what it is you want to do.
I love that. That was so good. I feel like when you go to your page, you, like, when I look at your page personally, looking from the outside, I feel like you tell your story in every single one of your posts, even your product posts. Like, you're so good at constantly telling your story and not making it about it works. And I feel like that probably drags in so many people into your audience. Like, can you give some, like, points and tricks on how to kind of bring that in, so then we can kind of not be so it works focused on all our pages?
Yes, absolutely. And you guys, it's so important, because I don't know if this is actually word for word what the quote is, but it's something about, like, people don't buy people buy people, not the products or the business. So you have to remember there are so many people in this business doing the products, like things like that. But what is different is you. Like, it doesn't matter how many people there are in the same company, you are your own business, right? So you have to market yourself, like have your own content, your own story, and like show people like, this is why I do it. It's not like, I don't know, it's honestly just changes everything when you can just share your story consistently, because people buy people. Like, that's honestly what it comes down to. Every single person you talk to, they're not gonna join you just because of like one thing you have, or because it works, right? They are gonna join you because they feel like they know your story. They feel like they trust you because you're showing who you really are. And so for that reason, like, yeah, just like you said, my story is like everywhere. Like, it sounds so dumb. It doesn't make sense out loud, but I call them my potentials. Okay. And I'll explain this. But what that means to me when I say that is like every single person on your friends list has the potential to be a potential. Okay. And what I always tell myself is my profile needs to have my story so close to the top that any single person who goes to my page could, within like 3 or less scrolls, should see something that inspires them to ask like what I do or how I'm making this money or anything that would make them reach out to me, right? And if you don't, like, you're literally losing potentials. I hope that makes sense. But basically there's so many people, especially when you're doing like host to post, growing your network, things like that. People are creeps. People are going to go to your page and they're just going to want to see what you do, like who you are. They're going to be like, who is this person? And if you have your story so close to the top at all times, like, you are literally bringing in potentials, even if you've never talked to them yet. If they don't know you, like, they will, right? And so, yeah, always have your story out there. Be yourself, even if it's like silly or quirky. My main thing, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but literally one of my main things I talk about all the time is that I have like the world's biggest puzzle. And for so long I was like, don't tell people that, that's so nerdy, don't say it. But ever since I started just like being my weird self, the amount of people that message me just being like, hey, like, how's this going? What are you doing with this? Like, people just feel like they know you, and it just changes everything. I don't even know if that answered the question, but
That totally answered the question.
okay.
I was very good at doing that when I first joined. I was very like authentic and like to me. And then it's been like a lot of like it works based. And I'm like, man, I have to go back to my 5 pillars. I do that all the time. You always forget like the parts of you outside of the business. And I feel like it's so true. Like, you need to throw it into like every single post. You're so right on that. Okay, so I know, and I've been told several times that you're a DT enrolling machine. So what are some tips you can share for people who maybe feel like they have like gone through their warm market and they're kind of hitting a wall now as far as enrolling DTs?
Yeah. So, okay. So I have a few things. Like, the main one for sure is what we were already talking about. Share your story all the time. Be yourself, even like when you feel like it's like silly and weird. People love it. The other one though, kind of going back to what I like briefly mentioned, is anytime I'm messaging for the opportunity or just like even talking about it, always, like I said, it always has a bit of my story in it. And I find I get so many responses that way, because even if people aren't interested, I still get no's, but they still very politely respond back and be like, no, thank you, but like, I'm so happy that's working for you. Like, it just creates such good relationships that even if somebody said no, they're still going to follow me, because it wasn't just like, hey, do you want to join my team? Or like, hey, I'm working from social media, you want an income? It's like, hey, I don't know if you've ever thought about doing something like this with me, but like, because of this online business, I've been able to buy a house for my family and put food on the table. Like, whatever, like the very short version of your story is, it completely changes the way people respond to it. And so it's like, it's so important to just put your story in everything. And your actual story is a huge part of it too. So for me, what I do is like, I make sure my posts are like very from the heart. Like, if I'm having a day where like, I don't want to post just for the sake of posting, I want it to be like good content, right? So I only post like if I'm really truly feeling like that in the moment. But I'm always in my stories, like at all times, whether it's like videos of me, inspirational quotes, like videos of me and my daughter playing, like always my story is ongoing. And for that reason, like I have so many views on my stories that it's like 99% of what seals the deal for my potentials, even if they came in from like post to post or messaging, whatever it is, it's when they see my stories that they then respond and are like, okay, I'm ready, because they're constantly watching me. Like there's days I get like up to 1,200 views just on like stories, just because I'm so consistent with it. So if you don't do stories, I highly recommend it. And even as weird as it sounds, set an alarm for every single hour until you get in the habit of adding to your stories all the time, because how stories work is whoever posted most recently is who shows up on the top of their profile, right? So if you are constantly just putting content into your stories, your picture is literally right there all the time. So that's where a ton of mine come from. And something I do in my stories that actually like signs me quite a few distributors, I'll pull it up just so I can show you. But I make a story slide at the start of each month, and I put my distributor goal on it for how many I want to sign that month. So like, for example, this one, so I'll put like the month, it doesn't say the month, sorry, I forgot. Because with this one, I put in Instagram stories and put like a moving February sticker. So this part doesn't have the sticker. But so for this month, it worked out really well to put 21 little hearts. So I made my goal 21 distributors. And what I do every single time I sign a distributor is I'll shout them out in my stories with like a matching one like this, right? With their name and picture of who signs. And then right after that, always would be like, okay, 20 spots left, 19 spots left. And when you do that, it not only makes your followers take you very seriously, because when they see that number going down, they're like, oh crap, like I got to jump in on this. But it also pushes you and makes you take those distributor enrollments really serious too. Because even if you like don't enroll distributors right now, or you like barely enroll any, when you make yourself put that out there and know that like people are watching if those spots are actually filling up, it makes you work so much harder to go and fill that, to talk to more people, to be like, okay, like I need to sign those, even if it's just like 1 or 2 distributors, it makes you go sign those distributors. So like last month, for example, I made my goal 12, and then it filled so quickly. Like I had so many people being like, hey, do you have spots left? Or I know it's like going fast, but like, can I join? Because my followers don't know different. They take those numbers very seriously. And so then I signed those 12. So I was like, okay. So then I made one that said 5 bonus spots left. Well, that made people like freaking jump on it. So all of a sudden I had 5 people that were like, okay, I want one. And next thing I know, I had to make it like month-end open enrollments, because when you take it so seriously and post it so consistently, your followers take it just as seriously as well. So yeah, those are my biggest tips for signing distributors.
That's honestly so true, because I remember when I was following, like I stalked Courtney for the longest before I signed up with her. And when I signed up with her, it was exactly that. She's like, I just opened 3 extra spots. I'm like, what? I need to get in on this. It's so true. Like they don't know any better. So that's how you kind of you get them in and involved. And stories are huge. I agree with that. And I also like the part where you added that if you don't feel like posting, you don't post unless it's going to be like something sincere. And I love that. I need to start doing that. Okay. So my next question, how do you filter through your conversations with your potential DTs? Like, how do you filter the ones that are serious into working the biz and the ones that like you want to set expectations to help them be successful in the business?
Okay, so what I do is I have like specific wording that I go through that like explains the opportunity and all that. And then if they say they can't, I'll ask for a day, like what day works for you, I'll put it in my calendar. Or if they say they don't know, or it's been like a couple follow-ups and like they're not really taking it seriously, I have a message that I send. I'll send it to you actually. And then if you want to share it with your team, you can use it or tweak it. But basically it just says like, I know it might be tough, but like, this is why you should save for this opportunity. It gives a couple options for like how they can save to do this. But basically just ends by saying like, this is why you need this opportunity, is so that you can have this income. And so it's messages like that that I really like using, because I don't like, I'm very yellow. My personality is very like, not shy, but like soft spoken. Like I don't ever want to offend anybody, but I'm also red with my potentials in a way that like, I'm not going to beat around the bush. Like I'm going to love on you. I'm going to care for you. Like, this is how we can do it and why you need it. But like, it's up to you to do it. And so for that reason, I find that like the people who are serious about it do sign up, because I straight up tell them like I will be your best friend and I'll walk you through it. I'll show you all of it. But like, this is why you need it. So yeah, that's honestly what I do. I'll keep up with them, of course, but if they're not like taking it seriously, like there's not much more I can do besides just follow up with them and just keep doing what I'm doing, and just knowing that like if you are being that rock star, you will attract those rock stars. Like the people that are going to come in and change your business and are going to work super, super hard will come to you because you are also doing those things, right? So just go do everything that you're wanting to attract and it will happen.
I honestly love that, because it's true. If you put the expectation right from the start, then they know what to expect. And then you're not going to get somebody that's just going to do it to be another number box on your chart to fall off like a week later, right? Yes. So I love that. Okay. So how many times do you feel like you need to follow up with people on average before you move on? Or like, even how do you like restart those conversations when they've kind of like started ghosting you?
So honestly, what I do is I don't think I have it down here, but I have like a book that I write down all my potentials in, and I'll keep following up with them till either they sign or they tell me to F off or like get really mad at me or something. But I find like really good ways to do that, or like if there's sales, for example, or even if your team is killing it, or if you have, what I used to do is even if a sideline on your team just earned a bonus, make that into a follow-up. Be like, we just had somebody on our team earn a $5,000 bonus or whatever it was that they accomplished. Be like, I really would like to help more people do this. Like, are you ready? Like, take the smallest wins for you or your team, or even like sidelines, and bring those into the follow-up, because I find when you can make the follow-ups actual stories is when they work really, really well. So just taking every single win you can think of and just forming those into the follow-ups, and yeah, just keep going. And there's so many that ghost me all the time, but I'll just, I don't know, you never know what it is that's going to win them over, right? So you just got to keep going. And if they're meant to be on your team, they'll be on your team.
I feel like the hardest part is when you followed up with someone for like 20 times and all of a sudden they fell off the face of the earth. So
yeah, it definitely happens for sure. Like there'll be some times where I'm going through my potentials list and I'll go to search somebody and I'm like, I can't find this person anymore. Like, I don't even know like where they are, but okay. So I'll just like cross it off and keep going. So it definitely happens, but I wouldn't say there's ever a time that I stop following up, unless of course they do like get really mad. I'm like, okay, you could have just like replied and said no, but it's fine.
Okay, well, going off of the no's, when you're training your new DTs, how do you coach them to work through the no's and to focus on getting their shopping spree?
Yeah, so honestly, a big thing for me, I think it helps being really yellow for me too, is because what I find works best with that is just being that friend for the people who sign up, and just remembering that like they, just because they signed up doesn't mean they're going to get instant success, right? It's going to happen on their time and when they're like truly ready for that. And just being that person for them regardless, like follow up with them, like, how are you doing with this training? Like, how is this going? Like, walk them through the conversations, but also message them and just say like, how are you and your family doing? Or if they've told you about something going on, how are you doing with this? Like, just being that person so that if they do go through something, they're comfortable sharing with you, or like they will come back to you if maybe right now isn't their time, but when they are ready, they're comfortable enough to come back to you, right? Because if we find ourselves like feeding into like the negativity or getting frustrated with them, like you will lose them, right? And for me, a good example of that is I think it was either last year or the year before, we had some girls who were like so good, like absolute rock stars, and that whole leg just fell off. And part of me was like so sad about it, but I was like, I'll just keep being their friend, like I'll just still be here. I never delete them off Facebook if they quit or if they stop working, because I do still want to be that person for them, right? And so recently I've signed so many distributors last month and this month, and some of them were like, all those people, they all came back. Like so many of them are returning distributors because I stayed that person for them. And this time when they joined, they're like boom, boom, boom. Like they're like running. Like I had one girl, she was a diamond on the team before, quit. I was really upset about it, but I didn't tell her that. And she came back just last month. She's already like charted for Emerald, and she messaged me yesterday. And she was like, I freaking love you. Like you inspire me every day with how many distributors you sign, but don't. She's like, I want it to be on me. Like, please don't place anything under me, because that's how it works, right? Is people will do it on their own time. And if you just like be that friend for them and let it happen, when they are ready, they'll take off. So yeah, just even, I guess, I don't know if that really answered it, but when they do come back to you like negative, like show them ways to go around it. Just be so positive and confident, like in their ability, and just remind them these people judging them aren't paying their bills, but like this business can. So like just keep going.
That was great. I love that. I'm a yellow too, and I find it's like my weakness sometimes. I'm like, I just want to be your best friend. Just let me love you. And I feel like I'm like, don't leave my team, please. So I feel like it's my biggest weakness. So I love that you like rocked through that whole conversation with your strong yellow. So that was great.
Thank you.
Okay, so how do you keep your team motivated despite any conflicts or obstacles like within your team as a whole?
Like give me an example. Like what do you mean for like obstacles?
Maybe promoting, or if this business is right for them.
Okay, so like if they like don't promote or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think with that, just reminding people that like there's not like an end time to this, right? Like you don't put a time limit on your success. Like even like I'm sure you guys know who Jocelyn Yates is. Like I use her story a lot. Like she took 9 months before she even signed one person. Same with like Cami, joined 3 times before doing anything. Like if it's meant to be, like it will happen. But if you put a time limit on your success and you quit because it didn't happen fast enough for you, then you're literally just making it never happen, right? Like they're like, what are you going to go back to? And I find an exercise that really helps that I do with my team all the time is I make them take out a piece of paper if they're ever in that like mindset. And I just say to them, okay, sit down right now, write out every single thing that would be in your life if like all of your goals with this business happen. Like go in detail, like how much are you going to be making? Where are you living? What does your life look like in detail, so that they're like all high and excited, right? And then when they share that with me, I say, okay, now flip the paper over and write, what is your life going to look like if you quit and go back to what you were at before in detail? What does that life look like? How much are you not making now? What are you not able to pay for? Like, how do you feel? Like, and that honestly going from such a high to such a low, like makes them so emotional every single time. And that's really all you need to do is just remind them, like, this is what you're working towards. Just because it didn't happen this second, like, doesn't mean you still can't work towards this, right? The other option is you're going to go back to this. So putting the 2 options in front of them, I find really, really helps.
That's great. I actually love that. I feel like time limits with our line of work is really hard because a lot of people like come out running. I was one of those people that did that with customers. Like right off the bat, I signed them like crazy, and then all of a sudden I'm just like, hey. So that's me now. But I feel like putting a time limit on everything kind of just makes it so much harder and so much more pressure for yourself. I feel like the best thing we can do is kind of have your goal, keep going for it. If you don't get it this month, go for it the next month. And it's kind of like everybody's story is different. I've noticed that so completely.
Exactly. And remember too that like baby steps are still steps forward. Like even if it's happening so slow, you are still going in the right direction. You're still moving there. Even if it's slow, it's still happening. And that's the biggest thing to remember, I think.
I love that. Yeah. I needed that reminder. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. When you're charting, do you find that you build a lot of your chart fully, or do you usually make them do the third leg?
So this is actually something I was like just talking with my fiance about last night, honestly. So let's be open about it. I have actually been building people way too much is what I realized after that talk with my distributor yesterday, because I would just build them like all the distributors, I would just stack it. But I feel like that talk with my distributor yesterday, who was like, I need to like also do this myself, was I think a big wake up call for me too, because I was like, you know what, that is so true. If you want them to be the best leader they can be and to learn how to enroll and to become that person, they have to have the space to do it, right? And so a big learning lesson for me this year is to stack less. Like I think what I'm going to do is I'll place the 2 still, but I will not give them the 3rd leg so that they have to be in charge of 1/3 of their chart minimum. And so, yeah, that's something I'm going to be working on for sure, because there are definitely people that match like my efforts, but I'm definitely finding that if you like build a portion of it, but say, okay, but now you're in charge of this much, they work harder for it, right? And so, yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
I love that. When I first started, the first thing I said to Courtney, I was like, do not build me. Like, I need to do this by myself. Yeah. Because then she's going to build me and then I'm not going to work for it because I did nothing to get there. I'll just be like, okay, cool, I'm Ruby. I got this.
Exactly. And that's when people do tend to fall off. Now that I'm looking at it, true, is because like you built them there, right? They don't know how to lead the team now or how to go mass enroll like you were. So yeah, I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, it's hard. I get it. It's the yellow.
Yes.
Okay. What is the most important risk you felt like you took when promoting?
When promoting, I think for me, the biggest, I don't know if I would call it a risk, but the biggest thing for me was definitely after we went triple, we hit top 150 the year before this year. And for me, it was that I got complacent. Like, I think I was too comfortable with where we were at. And I think that for me is the biggest thing that I try to talk to my team about a lot too, is no matter how much you're making, no matter how many goals you're hitting, you have to keep dreaming bigger, because if you're not going forward, you're going backwards. Like, you will never stay exactly where you are. And so that was another reason that the trip to Australia like really, really changed me, because if I'm being honest, we had 2 triple accounts, and by the time we went to Australia, we were being paid as mine was double and his was diamond. And because I didn't know what I was working towards anymore, right? And so we went on this trip and just seeing the world and like traveling with my 2-year-old, and one of the Airbnbs we stayed at, the family told us, they were like, we literally sit at our kitchen table and watch the whales out of our kitchen window in whale season. Like, you could literally see the whole ocean from their window. And I just started crying. Like, as embarrassing as that sounds, it's true. I started crying and I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is what I want to do. Like, I did not come this far to just come this far. And I came home. It's like, it sounds so dramatic, but it's the yellow in me. And like, I cried so much after we got home, because I was like, I don't want to be here. I want to be back in Australia. I want to be traveling with my family again. Like, that was the most magical thing. And so we came home, and my emotional mess of a self went from double and diamond to, we had both our triple diamond accounts back within like 60 days of getting back. Like, it just changed everything for me, because it really showed me how to like dream again and to want bigger. And I think part of it too is just realizing that like, it's okay to want more. It's okay to want like a hell of a lot for your family. Like, it's okay to want big money. So that was a big thing for me now, is just teaching my team that like, you have to dream big, and like money mindset. You have to know it's okay to want to go claim like everything that there is out there.
Yeah, that's so true. I feel like a lot of us enter this and we're like, I'm not worthy enough of like this $10,000 or $5,000 bonus. Like, it's hard. I feel like half of the time I don't even feel worthy of a $200 paycheck, because I'm just like, I like half of the time, yes, I need it, but I don't at the same time. Like, I'm okay. So I get that. Okay. What are 3 books you can recommend that have helped you grow in leadership?
Okay, I love that question. So there are 2 specifically that stick out for me that I swear changed my business. Girl on Fire was the first one, and I read them in this order, and I swear it changed my life. So Girl on Fire, it's all about like confidence. Like you literally like feel on fire when you're reading it. Like the title is not a joke. Like it makes you feel so good about life, about your business. Like it's like a very personal one, right? Like it fires you up. And then I followed that one up with the 10X rule by Grant Cardone. Holy crap. And what that one then does is takes like while you're on fire, having all those feelings, and then 10X is all the actions you're doing with your business while you're in that like excited mood. Literally changed everything for me. I read those 2 books so quickly back to back, and like I have not slowed down since. Like there's just something about that combination of the 2 books that just, yeah, I recommend, even if you've read the books before, like go reread them in that order. You will not regret it. I don't even know, for a third one, I would say You're a Badass. I know that's such like they almost say that's like a beginner's one, but that one is still to this day one of the best ones. And I feel like what that one made me do is I literally started saying to myself, you're a freaking badass, like every single day while I'm like working out or working my business or anytime that I start to get like a little bit like tired or like worn out, I'm just like, no, you're a freaking badass. And I literally say it out loud. And I feel like it has actually changed how I look and feel about myself. And it pushes me harder. As weird as that sounds, like I just say it so often now that I just believe it. And it's just changed who I am, I guess. Yes.
I honestly get that. I'm huge on professional development. I do like way too much of it, and half the time I don't think it sinks in when it should. So like I am all about reading books. So I am definitely going to check those out. I've heard of You're a Badass, but I've never read it. I could totally yell at myself all day though and say, you're a badass. I could do that.
I felt so silly the first time. I was like, Kaitlyn, what are you doing? What if somebody hears you? But now I'm just like, no, it works. Like, don't mind me. I'm having a staff meeting over here.
That's cute. I love it. Okay. What is your biggest takeaway from your whole entire journey thus far?
Oh man, there's so many. That's a hard question.
You gotta narrow it down.
Okay, biggest takeaway from all of it, I think, is honestly just, I feel like a lot of it came from the personal development though too, but just understanding that like you are worth all of your goals. Like there is more to life than what people want you to believe. Like it really, starting a business like this really shows you who actually cares about you as a person and who like is there but doesn't actually want to see you like really successful or like do better than them, right? And so for me, I think my biggest takeaway was really realizing like how much potential I have as a person and like how much I have in me to go help other people and to care about other people. And just as hard as that was at first, because like my yellow heart, like I can't tell you how much it hurt like at first learning who those people were that didn't really care and would get mad at me for working my business, all of that. But then when I started diving into the personal development and like truly like seeing in myself like why I was that way and why I was like wanting to help people, it really changed a lot for me. And I think that by far is my biggest takeaway, and just learning that like you're allowed to outgrow people, you're allowed to outgrow situations. Like if you want to go be like the best person you can be, make $50,000 a month, like buy your dream house, like, do it. Like, there should be nothing stopping you from doing that. And if there's people in your way, then those aren't your people. Like go find out how much you're worth and just don't stop until you get there.
Yeah, that's so true. I have to constantly remind myself that it's okay to let go of certain people that just aren't bringing you joy in your life. And it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. But I remember, I think it was actually Jackie that had this talk with me. I think it was at conference the last year. I was out there at conference at Green Carpet, and there was just people I was hanging around with that like weren't in the same vision, right? And she pulled me aside and we just had this heart-to-heart talk, and she was like, you have so much potential in this business, but if you hang out with 5 people that are constantly negative, tearing you down, you are going to be that 6th person in the group. And it was so like empowering to me. I was like, you know what, that is right. And so I just started slowly just like shifting towards the people that were positive, that were going in the direction I wanted, right? And it's the exact same situation there. If you hang out with 5 successful people, 5 positive people, you're going to be the 6th one of them. And so just really know where your energy is going and be aware of it. And it honestly changes when you can just like know exactly what you're doing.
That's so true. Like Cheyenne always says that you have to evaluate your circle all the time. Like you should constantly be going through it and seeing like who's dragging you down and who's not. And I feel like that's so key, especially with personal development. I feel like it takes a big toll on your whole mindset within the business. So as far as personal development goes, is there anything you would suggest for someone like me who does it all the time and kind of still needs more personal development? I feel like I'm not taking it all in.
Okay, so for me, what I like so firmly believe is that like physical books are like what is going to change the game for you, because you can listen to an Audible a million times, like nothing against those are still awesome, but if you're listening to one and there's something that you're like, oh snap, that was good, but it keeps going, right? It doesn't give you to like stop and soak it in. Whereas if you sit down with an actual book and a highlighter and a sticky note and you're like, oh dang, that was good, and you take a second to actually like highlight it and put a sticky note, you soaked that in like 10 times more because you're actually like still like pondering on it, right? And so what I do is I actually only do physical books, and I make sure I do that every single time like anything tweaks an emotion in me, because then what I can do is if I'm ever in like a bad headspace or I wake up just in a bad mood one day, I know exactly which book to go to, and I can just like skim my thumb through it and just read like just the short like highlighted points, like go to the sticky notes, and it just helps me because I know like exactly what I'm looking for, right? So yeah, I highly recommend that. And also another thing that I do too that I find really helps is starting your day with the personal development, because if you wake up and you check your phone right away and the first thing you see is that so-and-so is quitting the team and this person wants to cancel their auto ship, or like this person, the products aren't working, like you start your day and you're like, well crap, there goes that, like you're just in a terrible mood, right? Whereas if you don't check your phone right away and you sit down and you do your personal development first, like I will do it no matter how long it takes until like you feel that click in your mind, right? Like if you read books, you know what I mean? Like you can literally feel when it's done its work. So whether that's like 2 pages because I'm just on a high, or if it's a rougher morning and I'm sitting there reading for like an hour or two, I don't care. Like I will not message people until I know I'm in that right space. And so for me, that changes everything, because then if I leave my personal development and then go into it and this person wants to quit and this person, the products aren't working, then I'm in such like a confident space that I'm like, okay, but what can we do to help that? Like you're looking for the solutions instead of the problems, right? Or like, okay, that's fine, I'm going to go find somebody who wants this more. Like it really changes how you work your business for the day, by starting it out and just like not talking to anybody until you're there, because people, whether it's like your team or potentials, anybody can tell your mood. Even if you like think you're hiding it or that you're like covering up that you're in a bad mood, it still seeps through in your messages. Like you will attract the wrong people, you'll get the wrong vibe across. Like if you're like messaging for distributors and like deep down you're like, oh frick, like this day sucks, nobody's gonna sign. Like that's literally just what's going to happen. So you just have to be so aware of just being in the right mindset before you go talk to your team and potentials, and that made a huge difference for me.
It's so true, because I used to listen to podcast after podcast, or like listen to worship music in the morning or something, like just while you're doing all the things. And I was like, I'm doing like the PD, and Courtney's like, you're really not, because your mindset isn't changing. I'm like, I promise I am, like I'm doing it. But it's so true. When I read the actual book, it's completely different, because I'm now reading Sherry Lynn's like You Can Do Hard Things for the second time, because I love it so much. It's so good. And like that book I've torn apart with all the highlighting and underlines and everything in it. So I completely get that. I also liked the point where you touched on, sorry, my dog's interrupting. I also like the point where you touched on the fact that I completely lost that train of thought. I'm so sorry. That was brutal.
No, that's okay.
Anyways, back to my final question, and this is my last question, which I'm really excited to hear about. Finally, since you made it into the 150,
yes,
entire earner of our whole company, what's your next goal? Like, I really want to know that, because that's personally one of my goals for this year.
So my biggest goal right now is honestly to go presidential. Like I've been wanting it for so long. Like we went triple in November of 2019, no, 2018, I think. Yeah, because it would be 2 years. It was just 2 years since we went triple. And for me, it was like we went triple so fast. And then the jump from triple to presidential is when I stopped just like envisioning it. Like I feel like so much of me felt like it was too big. I wasn't capable of it, right? And so I just like I was working on it, but my mind was not working on it. So it wasn't happening, right? And so now that I've had this huge like vision change and my personal development is so different. Like my mindset is a million spaces ahead of where it used to be. And now all of a sudden, like we're actually like the whole chart is done. We just need group volume. So we're actually going to organically promote to presidential just by the group volume that's needed. So yeah, that's my biggest thing right now. And I'm just so excited to make it happen. Maybe even like top 100. That'd be pretty cool.
I love it. That's so ambitious. I love it.
Yeah, you know what?
I'm
It's
excited.
but if anything, if 2020 taught me anything, is that like I'm going big. Like go big or go home. Like we're going all the way.
When I saw your name on the screen in conference, I was like, yes, Kaitlyn.
Oh my
Every
God.
single Canadian, I'm like, she's Canadian. I'm like hitting my fiance. They're Canadian. See?
That's awesome. It was so funny because like 2020 was a rough year emotionally for us, not business wise, but just because like we had so much happen from like being in Australia. We had to get rushed home because of the pandemic, because we were abroad when it happened, which like was so much anxiety I can't even explain to you. We lost like the last 2 weeks of our trip, and then we got home, and then the wedding was canceled, and the honeymoon was canceled, Margaritaville was canceled, which like sucked because I was so pumped to earn that as like a new like triple diamond. But anyways, like everything just like came crashing down last year, and then I was like, you know what, there's no way we made top 150. Like I was just so sad about it. I was like, there's no way, like out of everything, that's what's gonna happen. We were all on Zoom as a team watching it. And part of me was just like, I was like, I don't even want to look. I was like, I'm not up there. I don't want to look. Yeah, literally, I wasn't even looking at the screen. And all of a sudden, like, they announced it. And the team was like screaming, like, Kaitlyn, look. And I look up and I was like, and I just like instant like tears. I had to like put my pillow in front of my face and be like, oh my God, nobody look at me. Like, that was a mess. So yeah, it was like a very like surprising in the best way ever moment. Oh,
That's amazing. Okay, well, that's all my questions.
Does anybody else have any that they want to ask me?
Kaitlyn, do you have any like last minute tips or last minute anything that you feel like is on your heart that you just want to share? Because I know, sorry, I'm like, my screen isn't showing for whatever reason, but I know a lot of people on the Zoom are like really hype and really want to push for promotions that they've been pushing for 6 months. Like they're like, this needs to be the time that I make this happen. So is there anything that you would share on that?
Yeah, you know what I would say is that like, I truly feel like we are having the biggest boom season right now than we've had in the longest time ever. Like literally everybody in the world right now is basically needing an extra income, or they're putting on the weight. Like they need to get off, like so many people. And so if there was ever a time to go out there and like accomplish everything, like it is right now. And so I would just say like, even if you're doing all the things, just do more of all the things, like message people, like do host a post like crazy, like the potential right now is crazy, you guys. Like our group volume went up 20,000 from December to January, and that's so huge for our team. And so I just know that like it's possible for absolutely everybody. Like just go message your heart up, talk to as many people as you can, and just be excited, because it's your excitement that's gonna come off to people. It doesn't matter, like people don't care how much money you're making at this moment. They don't care if you know all the facts about what you're doing. They just care if you truly love what you're doing. So just go out there and be excited every day and just offer it to people and just say like, this is why it means so much to me. Like, come do this with me. And yeah, they will.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your night to hang out with us, to answer all the questions. Everyone, we'll put this up on my YouTube tonight, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.